All right, let's talk about previous management. I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, that you co-owned an entity with Trevor Milton called T&M Residual, owns 39 million shares. I understand that you extended your lockup. There's a very big lockup coming up, the lockup expiration, that you've extended the period that you don't want to sell, especially the 39 million shares in the entity that you co-own. But what happens if Milton decides to sell? He owns an awful lot of stock. I mean, I would feel like that his 92 million shares might be free to trade. I don't know how much is locked up. I just worry people will listen, they'll want to buy hydrogen, and they might run into a gauntlet of stock that is thrown down by Trevor Milton.
Hey, I'm Stephen, and this is Solving the Money Problem. If you're new, welcome. If you're not, welcome back. So in this video, we're hearing from Captain of the Titanic, Mark Russell, CEO of Nikola Motor Corporation, also known as a steaming pile of vaporware, in my opinion. Jim Cramer had the opportunity to ask Mark Russell a few questions about the company, the potential impending collapse of the stock price given all the share lockup periods expiring on the 1st of December, how in the they're actually going to get the cost of hydrogen to a reasonable level, and more. So let's see what they had to say. But first, hey guys, if you live in the US and you'd like to help out the channel and get up to 4 free stocks, check out the link in the description to WeBull. If you open a new account, you'll get 2 free stocks between $2.50 and $250 each just for opening an account. And if you deposit $100, you'll get a further 2 free stocks valued between $8 and $1,600 each. That is an obnoxiously good return on your investment. I mean, really, deposit $100 and you'll end up with, at minimum, $21 worth of stocks, a 21% ROI on your money. And if you're in Australia, the UK, or New Zealand, you can get a free stock with stake also using the link in the description. Let's get back to it.
Over the past 2 weeks, the poster child for overheated hydrogen-powered electric vehicle stocks, Nikola, it's come roaring back. 1834. For those of you who don't remember, Nikola is the speculative EV play with a hydrogen kicker that came public over the summer via reverse merger with a special purpose acquisition company, or SPAC. The stock initially caught fire, and by September, the company had made a transformative deal with General Motors to collaborate on an electric pickup truck, but to do much more than that. Then, a few days later, a short seller published a scathing research report accusing Nikola and its founder of outrageous acts of fraud. So then the stock plunged below $20, and for a while, that's where it stayed. But Nikola brought in new management. They kept working on their truck and their hydrogen technology, and even after all the bad press, GM hasn't pulled the plug on their partnership, though we lack clarity on the current relationship. We also need clarity on partnerships that could build out a much-needed hydrogen network, and what help the government might even give to lower the cost of hydrogen. So is it time to take this company seriously again, given how much this market loves EV and hydrogen fuel cells? Let's take a fresh look. It's a fresh look with Mark Russell. He's the new president and CEO of Nikola. Get a better sense of what's happening. Mr. Russell, welcome to Mad Money.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Love to be here talking about hydrogen.
Of course. All right. So, Mark, tell me, after kind of a, let's say, tumultuous period, why you are the person to take Nikola into the promised land of maybe the greenest fuel out there, hydrogen.
Well, the whole team here is excited about hydrogen. That's what we've been focused on for several years now here. We think hydrogen is part of the solution for a zero-emission future.
Right. But then remember, there were some issues that occurred. Issues that occurred that made it so that we don't even know if your GM deal is going to happen.
Now, I don't want to spoil this for you guys, but I have to confess, I have actually watched this video already, and I noticed a bit of a pattern, a bit of a trend. It seems as though Mark isn't exactly hyper willing to directly answer any of Jim's questions, so just pay attention. Notice what Jim asks and then how Mark somehow responds without really actually addressing anything important, any of the substance of Jim's questions.
That could expire soon, the pact with GM. And there were obviously issues that I think people felt were signs of fraud. A truck that was sent down a hill to show that the company got an engine that worked that turned out to be actually, say, suboptimal in describing what Nikola does.
Well, Jim, we have several trucks that work. We have fuel cell trucks that work. We have our first battery truck that now is on the dyno and has been on the track. The Nikola Tray, which was being finished up in Germany, and the production prototypes. We have a number of trucks that work. We haul beer on public roads for Anheuser-Busch. You know, a few seconds on Google, you find that video.
Oh, absolutely.
So we have a number of prototypes that work, and we're focused on the future now, going forward.
Okay, how can you get the price of hydrogen down to make it so it's viable?
Well, the key to getting the price of hydrogen down, Jim, is the price of electricity. And on that front, what people need to focus on is the price of green electricity. The electricity that's coming from wind, it's coming from solar. That's the price that you need to focus on. We can make hydrogen for about a decimal move on the cost of the electricity, depending on a few other factors. So if you can get electricity at 2 cents a kilowatt hour, you can make hydrogen for $2 a kilogram, which is way below the current retail price, as you know.
But do you have enough money on hand to have that happen? That's going to take a long time, right? Is that a 2030 issue, 2025? And does Nikola have enough money to see that vision out, particularly if the GM deal does not come to fruition?
Yeah, our current plan is based on what we ended the quarter with, which we announced in our earnings call. We got about $900 million on cash at that point. That's enough to fund our operations through this year, next year, on into 22. We've been upfront all along that we would do one more tranche of equity raise that we would need to do before we got to a self-sustaining run rate. We'll do that sometime next year when conditions are right. So we do have the funds, we have the team, we have the partners and the ecosystem to support it. We don't believe that hydrogen is a 2030 or even a 2025 solution. We've been dedicated now for several years to bringing hydrogen trucks and hydrogen stations to the world in 2023.
So you don't buy into the skepticism that one of the most wealthy people in the world, it's built a great empire, Tesla, that Elon Musk thinks that this is a fuel cell and not a fuel cell?
Well, he's partially correct on his analysis. Battery vehicles are super efficient, and we plan to make and sell those. The Nikola Tre that we're bringing to the market next year is a battery vehicle. It works great for short haul. The problem here is long haul. Mm-hmm. How do you get big things long distances? That's the problem. Batteries don't do that very well because of energy density, and that's just physics. Batteries are still super heavy compared to how much energy is in there. Well, to go further than that with something really heavy, you need hydrogen.
Now, in theory, Mark does have a relevant point here. If the cost of hydrogen can be driven down more than an order of magnitude from where it is today, in theory, hydrogen will be a viable fuel source for long-haul transportation. But there's a few problems. One of which being that Nikola currently doesn't actually produce any hydrogen at all for any cost, any price, any amount. They don't actually make any hydrogen. One more time, Nikola does not currently make any hydrogen. Number two, Nikola doesn't actually have a hydrogen network yet. Also extremely important. So right now, Nikola is a whole lot of talk, not a lot of walk. Need I remind you, it was only yesterday that Elon Musk was describing the Tesla Semi range of 800 kilometers with a path to get to 1,000 kilometers on battery cells. So let's deploy a little bit of logic here and just think, what sort of addressable market is there for Nikola's super long range eventually if they can actually pull it off, hydrogen powered trucks? But Stephen, obviously trucks go a long distance, you fucking moron. Duh, the longer the range the better, are you stupid? Great point, but I have a counter argument. How long will a truck driver's bladder last? Oh, well, they can just pee into a bottle, mate. Everyone does that anyway, don't you know? Oh, okay. So how long is a truck driver legally allowed to drive for before they're legally required to take a break of half an hour? I don't know, Stephen. 8 hours? And approximately how many hours of drive time at the upper speed limit will Tesla Semi get on a single charge? 8 hours. That's a good point. And just to intercept the three geniuses about to tell me in the comments how if you've got a massive load... Gee, that doesn't sound right, does it? If you've got a really big load, no, heavy load, nothing I say sounds right. If you have to pull a lot of cargo compared to a normal truck, yes, there'll be some utility there for the extra range. Do you understand the point I'm making? The market Nikola's going for, that extra utility of that extra range is this. The market that battery electric semis will be able to cover is this. Nikola's going for a spec, and there's enormous execution risk ahead of them. I don't see how anybody sees any sense in this company. I just don't get it.
Well, how about a partnership, say, with a BP or Royal Dutch? Both very forward companies. BP is not the company of old. They would be natural partners to be able to do hydrogen fueling stations.
Yeah, those are two companies that have been very forward thinking and looking at a hydrogen future. In fact, Shell's joined a consortium that we've helped put together to make sure the fueling protocols are standard around the world, which is important to make sure any vehicle can fuel in any station, unlike in electricity.
But you're not able to say whether you have a partnership pending with BP or Royal Dutch or being able to say what's going to happen to GM when the deal can expire. They can finalize. If they don't finalize it by December 3, they can pull out.
Well, we can't comment on continuing discussions, Jim, but we're interested in GM's Hydrotech fuel cell system. It's very interesting to us. We're interested in their Ultium battery system. Okay. Both of those things are interesting to us, and we continue to talk to them about those things.
Those of you who've been watching the channel for a while will have already heard me make this point, but it bears repeating. Just months ago, Nikola was screaming from the rooftops about their groundbreaking, revolutionary, industry-leading, world-class battery technology and fuel cell technology. So why then would they be seeking to get technology, battery tech and fuel cell technology from a company like GM, when Nikola has far superior technology themselves? Once again, in my opinion, this is a tacit admission that their prior claims were shit.
All right, let's talk about previous management. I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, that you co-owned an entity with Trevor Milton called T&M Residual, owns 39 million shares. I understand that you extended your lockup. There's a very big lockup coming up, the lockup expiration, that you've extended the period that you don't want to sell, especially the 39 million shares in the entity that you co-own. But what happens if Milton decides to sell? He owns an awful lot of stock. I mean, I would feel like that his 92 million shares might be free to trade. I don't know how much is locked up. I just worry people will listen, they'll want to buy hydrogen, and they might run into a gauntlet of stock that is thrown down by Trevor Milton.
This is far and away the most important thing that Jim has mentioned thus far, something that I've been warning investors, and I use the term extraordinarily loosely because honestly, people that own Nikola stock, I wouldn't really call them investors. What did Mum say? Oh yeah, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. Okay, so... But the point that I'm making is that there's a very, 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 very high probability come December 1st when this lockup period ends, an enormous number of insiders are going to be dumping shares. Now, I don't know what effect that will have on the stock price, but if I was a betting man, I'd have my money on the stock price plummeting, at least over the short term, as this enormous influx, a tsunami of shares hits the market. Remember, everyone inside the company, all of the insiders who are currently locked up and can't sell their shares, are fully aware that Nikola is currently being investigated by both the Securities Exchange Commission and the Department of Justice on allegations, very credible allegations of fraud, lies and misleading of investors. This company could be headed to zero. What do you think you're going to do if you're an insider? You can't sell your shares on the day you're finally able to sell your shares. I mean, I don't know, but if it was me, abandon ship, abandon ship.
Yeah, I manage those T&M shares, and then we have a bunch of strategic partners who have taken big positions in the company. Many of them have joined our board of directors, Hanwha, CNH, Bosch, people like that, controlling a lot of shares. A number of those folks have agreed to extend their lockup to the end of April, May 1. So I think it's 135 million shares that have extended their lockup that actually would have otherwise expired in the 1st of December.
How about those 92 million shares that Trevor's free to trade next week? I mean, do we have any assurances from him? It doesn't seem like well, it's up to him, obviously, but do you have any assurances that he might want to hold on here for the long term?
Can't comment for Trevor, of course, but we believe that as we execute on our milestones and on our business plan, we're going to reward our long-term focused shareholders.
Okay,
and that's our focus is on the long term.
How's the Badger doing? We're kind of excited about the Badger.
Well, the Badger is a cool truck. I think it's a cool truck. It's a truck I'm interested in personally.
It's in the repertoire.
Well, it has to have a business case, Jim.
So that actually just happened. The Nikola Badger, the greatest truck the world's ever seen, according to Trevor Milton, apparently needs to have a business case to actually be developed. This, to me, appears once again to be a tacit admission that the claims that Trevor Milton made literally said in interviews that the Badger was primarily designed to get the attention of retail investors, the Robinhood crowd, to pump up the stock price, allegedly, in my opinion, do your own research, blah, 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 that those claims were accurate. One of the few occasions that I can confidently say that Trevor Milton was actually telling the truth. Cramer's reaction really says it all. It's like, no shit, of course it needs a business case. What are you saying, you moron? You mean there wasn't a business case for this truck before you announced it to the world?
I'm interested in personally.
It's in the repertoire.
Well, it has to have a business case, Jim. It's got to be able to be something that makes sense for our shareholders. And we've got to have a partner because it isn't in our core plan. If you look at our core plan, that's about heavy trucks and hydrogen. The Badger isn't in the core plan, which is why we said from the beginning, it takes a partner. So if we have a partner, it's in play. If we don't have a partner, it's not.
Now, I know this may come as a surprise to some of you, especially those who just see Jim Cramer as a crazy guy who talks about stocks on TV, but he's extremely sharp, razor sharp. In fact, I hazard a guess that if you put Jim Cramer in a room of 8,000 other people, odds are he would be the smartest guy in the room. Now, this is pure speculation, but I hazard a guess that Cramer at this point in time is playing an intellectual game of 4D chess, asking good questions, staying quiet, although his body language tells us a lot, and just letting Mark answer, and by doing so back himself into a corner. We saw the exact same strategy take place when Jason Calacanis interviewed Trevor Milton on the This Week's in Startup podcast and just let the guy talk. Many people in the comments were going off at Jason, man, I can't believe you didn't call that his bullshit. Doesn't work that way, guys. Just let the man talk.
Would you agree with me that it would really help for Nikola to have GM for validity? In other words, if GM owns a chunk of you, it lends the bank, it lends backing, lends credibility. It would be easier to sell stock to be able to raise money so you don't have to think about next year. Now, you might say, Jim, will you stop? You're just trying to pry this out of me. No, actually, I think a lot of people really hope that you have that relationship with GM, and I'm trying to fuel that hope with legitimacy and reality.
Well, I can't comment on that. we like the fuel cell.
Mary
we like
Barr,
the battery.
No, Mary, you can't just say, "Hey, listen, I just talked to Mary. It looks pretty good. I wouldn't worry." How about some reassurance? Reassurance is always good.
Can't do that, Jim. When we have something to tell you, we'll let you know.
Well, I hope you come on the show when you have it, because I think it could be very exciting for people. Anyway, look, I think that, you know how I feel about hydrogen. It is the fuel of the future. You are the truck fuel of the future. I want it to work, but I don't want to get people's hopes up, because then what happens is insider selling starts and Mary Barr might walk away. These are all the things I'm trying to avoid, like you are.
Love to have you on hydrogen's side, Jim. It's awesome. Thank you.
On hydrogen. I'm a green hydrogen guy. I don't think it's a fuel cell. I think it's a fuel cell. Mark Russell, CEO of Nikola.
So to sum this one up in a nutshell, I mean, the perception that I got there, Jim asked some good questions, Mark did some Neo in the Matrix bullshit and just dodged them all, didn't really provide any answers of any real substance whatsoever, wouldn't even provide reassurance to existing shareholders that the stock price isn't going to collapse, that the GM deal is actually going to go through. Nothing really actually occurred, except for Mark tacitly admitting more of the things that Nikola have said in the past were complete and utter bullshit, in my opinion. I'm Stephen Mark Ryan, this is Solving the Money Problem, and I love you all. And don't forget, December 1st, share lockup period ends. Grab your popcorn, it's not going to be boring. And don't forget, if you live in the US and you'd like to help out the channel and get up to 4 free stocks, check out the link in the description to WeBull. If you open a new account, you'll get 2 free stocks between $2.50 and $250 each just for opening an account. And if you deposit $100, you'll get a further 2 free stocks valued between $8 and $1,600 each. And if you're in Australia, the UK or New Zealand, you can get a free stock with stake also using the link in the description. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And of course, if you have any ideas for future videos, let me know. I read all your comments. P.S. If you're still watching, you're awesome. If you'd like early access, exclusive videos, regular Q&As, our private Discord server and more, consider supporting the channel at patreon.com/solvingthemoneyproblem so I can keep creating content for you guys. There's a link in the description. You can now also become a member of the channel for some exclusive perks. To learn more, click the join button next to subscribe. And don't forget to check out our merch store. Either way, the best form of support is you being here and watching, so thanks again.